In some big-time news, AEW and WBD have reportedly agreed to a deal in principle for their new media rights partnership. Yes, yes, yes. It looks like AEW is staying with Warner Brothers Discovery. This according to a new report from SC Scoops that outlines everything we know so far. And we're going to tell you all we know about the situation, what AEW could be being paid at this point per year, and everything else right here in this video. So be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. All right, let's talk about it. The media rights deal for AEW WBD has been one of the biggest stories of the year. We've been waiting for this domino to fall. It seems like for nearly the past year and a half. And through all that has happened, we are now learning, courtesy of SE Scoops, that there is apparently a deal in place. Now, here is the excerpt from the SC Scoops article, which you can find in the link in the description below. All Elite Wrestling and Warner Brothers Discovery have agreed to, in principle, to keep AEW on Turner Networks for the next several years. According to sources in the television industry, AEW and WBD deals would add AEW content to the Max streaming platform, including pay-per-views. It's unknown how much AEW would earn moving pay-per-views to streaming. Two sources emphasized the deal was an agreement in principle only and on paper, but could change as both sides get closer to signing off. But there's an agreement on paper. An official announcement of an extension could happen within the next several weeks. Garrett Gonzalez and Dave Meltzer have corroborated the report on Saturday's Wrestling Observer Radio. Exact numbers on the deal weren't available, but were said to be on, quote, middle to high side, unquote, of what the two groups are negotiating. AEW's exclusive negotiating window with WBD ended on July 21st. That is according to SE Scoops. And monumental news. I mean, this is something that is not unexpected. There were rumblings that AEW and WBD were basically close to doing a deal. Tony Khan had confirmed that. I had even heard that, watch what happens next. Was something I was told. So, it's here. We are at the moment where it looks like there is a deal in principle. And again, these things are very fluid until it is agreed upon and really announced in like a press release formally. But it seems like AEW and WBD are not only going to be in partnership together, but they're expanding their partnership. And that is very critical to what this deal means. And I'll get into the numbers and everything we know about that situation in just a second. But AEW really needed to expand this partnership. It didn't just need to be, all right, yeah, we're signing you for, X amount of years for, your TV show, and you're going to be paid X amount of money, like double whatever you were making. It needed to be leveraging all of the assets they had. Because if you want to ensure that your company is going to be profitable in the next 5 years, if you want to ensure that this venture is not only going to be like self-sustainable, but fulfilling in a financial way, then you needed to get the bank on this deal, because this not only sets the tone for what your next deal is going to be and the deal after that, but it shows that this network you have, this tape library, all of the stuff, these pay-per-views have value, and they will have value down the line. And I think that is big. Like WWE, ever since they opened up the network, like their revenues have increased exponentially because of that tape library. And AEW has the ability now to leverage both their own tape library that they built up over the past 5 years that has not really been accessible to anyone over the past 5 years in the United States, but also expand that to the ROH library potentially. I think there will be some integration as far as ROH content being used on there eventually. Right now, I think it's clear like they're moving forward with just AEW content. Now, the interesting thing as we start to talk about the numbers is the way it was phrased in that piece was that AEW and WBD deal would have AEW content moving to the Max streaming platform, including pay-per-views. It's unknown how much AEW would earn moving pay-per-views to streaming. Now, the way that is phrased comes across as if it is saying that pay-per-views, meaning AEW's nearly monthly pay-per-views, will be moving to Max and available in that Max tier. That, I think, is a point TBD and to be cleared up, because it's not particularly clear to me what that is saying, because on one hand, you could take that as Max is going to get all the previous pay-per-views, the tape library, and like put them all on there, and pay-per-views are going to be available. Or it is all pay-per-views moving forward are going to be on Max, which, if that's the case, that would be big for the wrestling fans and AEW, because the amount of exposure you would be getting for that and the amount of money it would take, I think, AEW to do that would be a lot. Like that would be insane. And of course, for the fans, I think that would make these pay-per-views a little bit more accessible than, the $50 a month premium price that people are paying currently for AEW pay-per-views. And again, a lot of this stuff is pertaining to things that are probably going to be rolled out next year. Like, I don't expect to be paying or watching pay-per-views on Max in 2024, but 2025, when their media rights deal is up and this new extension, it would seem, goes into place, that's when you could probably expect that. But again, that is a point that will likely be cleared up in the next few weeks. I don't particularly know how to read that in the report, to be honest with you, and because it reads as if they're saying live pay-per-views, but it doesn't like say that definitively, which makes me feel like maybe there's a little bit of anyway. TBD on the pay-per-view point, but again, like that's a very lucrative thing, and I think if you're AEW and you're an AEW fan, you want that product to be on Max. You want the pay-per-views to be on Max, and it'd be interesting to me if and it's interesting to me if they do that, because I've been talking about Venue Sports, which is like this new streaming partnership that Warner Brothers is going to be going into with like Disney, ESPN, blah, blah, blah. It's interesting that like AEW wouldn't end up on there, or their pay-per-views at least would not end up on there. So we'll see what happens there. Of course, it also noted that the television content is staying on Turner Network, so I think clear that the TV is not moving over to Max. So at least we know that much. The other piece we need to talk about is the money. In that report from SC Scoops, it outlined that the final numbers were somewhere on the middle to high side. And if we want to look at context, Dave Meltzer, the Wrestling Observer newsletter, reported, I believe, a month or 2 months ago that the number that they were using in negotiations was somewhere around $115 million per year for y'all's sake and for everyone who's kind of trying to compare. Beforehand, AEW, the original TV deal, was somewhere around the ballpark of $45 million per year. So if you want to get everything and everything is bundled into one thing, pay-per-views, all that kind of stuff, I think obviously it's going to be more. It's going to be significantly more. But that $110 million number was the original number that was floated out there. And that was, I believe, and that was an offer from the Warner Brothers side. And I think one of the other kind of things that we were hearing and that were thrown out there were that, AEW wasn't particularly happy about that offer. Again, that was not confirmed, but it was kind of floated out there by a few people. And again, that happens in any negotiation. But the interesting thing here now is that from the middle to high side, that could mean, I think, that AEW could get something in around the $130 to $150 million range. My prediction was always they would get somewhere in that ballpark of $800 million to $1 billion over 5 years, which if you do the math on that, it's somewhere in the ballpark of $160 million to $200 million. Which is a whole lot of money. And, obviously, I think Brandon Thurston did an evaluation. I'm not sure if it's out of date at this point, but I think it was like over a year ago or something. And it was like somewhere in the ballpark of like 130 plus million would make them profitable over the next 5 years. But again, a lot of that is just my estimation. We'll have to see what the final number is. But given the context we know, like it seems like they got a good deal. And like we'll see what happens. We'll see how this partnership, how this deal works out. But look, AEW, the TV deal, it looks like regardless of what y'all think, regardless of how y'all feel, it's happening. It looks like we're going to hear more about it over the next few weeks. Look out for one of those. Tony Khan has a major announcement graphics coming into a town near you. But guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. What do you think about this deal? Where do you want to see AEW pay-per-views on Max in the United States? Do you want to see them elsewhere? Do you want to keep paying that $50 a month for pay-per-views? I want to hear from all y'all in the comments. Let me know. Also, be sure, if you haven't already done so, to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released.